bit slow today. So I'll just start with a map just to illustrate.
Est-ce que vous savez comment ça marche?
Oui, oui.
Oui, en fait, vous avez des flèches.
Il faut appuyer sur les boutons à droite. Piste 1.
Quel canal?
C'est le premier, c'est un.
Ça marche pour tout le monde, canal 1. Ah oui. Ah oui, on entend Nadine. Magnifique, Nadine.
Okay, shall I continue? So this map is just to present a regional overview of Western Sahara and Mauritania. And I will try not to make this presentation too technical and too geological, but just to simplify things. You can see that there are a number of mines operating in Mauritania, just over the border, where they demonstrate production of iron ore and also a very large gold mine at Tassias. And then you can see that there are sort of four geological domains within Western Sahara, but the one we're interested in is called the Reykjavik Shield, which outcrops in the liberated territories. Now you can see indicated on there by the pink line is the berm, or the wall that separates the two territories, and this we have mapped by satellite to an accuracy of 5 meters. Often you'll see in lots of the maps of the region just a cartoon depiction to avoid showing that Morocco is actually occupying parts of Mauritania as well. The population, as you know, lives in refugee camps in Algeria, shown in the northeastern corner. This is where we operate from. We fly into Algiers and then we fly down to Tindouf, where we keep all our equipment, and then we drive in overland into liberated territories. It's approximately a day's drive to where we are working. So just stepping back to talk about Tano Resources. We have been working with the government of Western Sahara for about the last 12 years, and the founders of the company have been helping the government since about 1998, even before that. So in 2007, we signed a technical cooperation agreement with the Sahrawi Petroleum and Mining Authority, and for 4 years we conducted a technical appraisal of the country, which I'll talk to a bit more on the next slide. In 2014, after the adoption of a mining law in Western Sahara by the government, we signed 7 exploration permits, and recently at the beginning of this year we re-signed 4 of those permits. So we've been constantly working there over the last 12 years. So just again talking through some of our journey and our work. This is an area of the world that's completely unexplored by modern techniques. Even when it was a Spanish colony, the Spanish only conducted 1 or 2 geological missions in from the coast. They mostly just lived on the coast and didn't really come into this area. There were 2 or 3 geological missions and several rocks collected during the early 70s. And in fact, those rocks are now in the University of Barcelona, and we've actually previously sponsored a Sahrawi student to complete a PhD doctoral thesis on those rocks. Lots of the work we have done has been very early stage. It is the type of work that is normally funded by the World Bank or the European Union, or large bodies such as that. For example, the World Bank spent $16 million in Mauritania, helping them understand the potential of their country through the PRISM project. And this is kind of on a part of that work. We have geologically mapped over 100,000 square kilometers based on satellite interpretation, and then numerous field visits over the last 12 years. And this work, lots of the goal of this work is to is to help the Sahrawi, give them a fundamental understanding of their country, to allow them to understand what they have and what the potential is. And just as I mentioned, we're very much doing this work in collaboration with the Sahrawi. And just 2 points on that. One, people ask me, so does that mean you recognize Western Sahara or the SADR or RSAD? And of course we do. Like, we do not, the international law is very clear, and we do not see any scenario or any eventuality whereby Morocco will have sovereignty over this area. So of course we're going to engage and work with the correct owners of the natural resources, being the Sahrawi people. And secondly, we do it in collaboration because we're actually doing it with the Sahrawis. We, as you can see here, one of our camps, we go out into liberated territories for maybe a month at a time, and during that time we employ about 25 Sahrawis as cooks, drivers, but also most importantly, a number of young Sahrawi geologists. We may have 2 or 3 Australian geologists, and then 4 or 5 Sahrawi geologists. These guys are well educated, they have often studied abroad, and they've come back to the camps. They have been unable to, obviously, to find work, but we take them out into their country, and they have an opportunity to use their studies to now study their own country. And many of these young people that were born in the camps, some of these guys had never set foot in their own country until we took them, and certainly nearly all of them have travelled further into their country than they've previously been. But we are there, we're helping to try and train them in geochemical sampling or geophysical techniques and mapping and geology. And it's just, it's often a very sort of heartwarming to see these guys engaged in work in their own country. So very, a key milestone that I mentioned for both us as a company, but also for the government, was the adoption in 2014 of a mining law by the Parliament, by the government of Western Sahara. The government is very committed to responsible stewardship of their natural resources, and while also providing a stable and attractive fiscal and legislative framework for companies such as ours to come and work in. Without that ability to sign licenses and have confidence in your arrangement with the government, then companies such as ours won't come and invest money there like we have been. So it has been a pleasure to work with the government through this process, and as I say, we recently in February re-signed 4 exploration permits covering a total of 8,000 square kilometres, quite a large area. And there's just a few, it's pretty standard mining law for the region. A lot of it was copied from Mauritania and Mali. And so we have visibility on 9 years of being able to explore in this area. So just to show where our permits are, this again is, I'm just showing here the Reykjavik Shield. Now this is the area of interest for a company such as ours. These rocks are Archean and Paleoproterozoic in age, which may not mean a lot, but our PhD that we funded at Oxford has mapped, dated, and proven that this is it's known to be the northern part of the West African Craton, but our work shows that it is practically identical to all the greenstone belts and the geology and mineralization that you see in the south, in the parts of like Mali, Burkina Faso, Cote d'Ivoire. So we've narrowed in on this area shown in green, which is the Umabana greenstone belt, which we believe is highly prospective for a number of minerals. So this is actually showing one of our targets. This is an outcropping body called Agaraz Labiad, which was our single best ASTA-based satellite target. We sit in offices in Perth, and we can see what we expect to find out in the Sahara Desert, and this was our single best target identified by satellite and we went and visited it, and it was exactly as described, as a granitic body sheared with quartz veins, hopefully mineralized with gold, and that's exactly what we found. So this just shows, you can see the outline of our permits there, and again I'll attempt to not get too technical for this, but throughout this area, which is maybe, it's about 100 kilometers long by 40 kilometers wide, we see numerous indications of gold mineralization through both the work that we've done and subsequent to the work we've done. We've seen a real uptick in artisanal mining in the area. People often coming from Mauritania, metal detecting, looking for gold and finding lots of gold nuggets. This is a very different scenario for a company like us than you might find in the rest of Africa, whereby Australians go to Ghana and they simply drill underneath where the artisanal miners are already working, whereas here the artisanal miners follow us to where we've made the discovery.
Attention là, on revient à l'anglais là sur... Ah oui, d'accord.
Anyway, as I said, the geology here shows very, very strong potential for orogenic gold mineralization. This is just one of our targets and some of the work that we've done. We do ground geophysics, we do rock chip sampling and soil sampling, and here's an indication of gold sitting in these quartz veins over a very large, significant area. Second, very interesting.
Attendez, Monsieur Marriott, peut-être aller un tout petit peu moins vite pour que Nadine puisse traduire. Parce que là, il y a une partie qui n'a pas été traduite. Nadine, à toi, jouer.
You ready, Nadine?
Nadine?
Okay.
Nadine?
Oui. Sont mis sur les écrans, là, on les voit, les roches et tout ça. Oui, ça y est, on vous entend.
Là, il s'est un peu arrêté pour te laisser le temps de reprendre ton souffle. Là.
Tu peux lui dire qu'ils sont écrits là.
Oui, elle ne voit pas la traduction. Elle ne voit pas la traduction. C'est écrit en français. Elle ne voit pas
C'est écrit en français.
Si tout le monde dans la salle, c'est écrit en français.
Oui, c'est ça. Oui.
A second interesting area is the El Malhat intrusive complex. This is a very large example of an anorthosite complex, which is one of the top 20 largest in the world that we've found. And these types of rocks show good indications for all sorts of minerals, often both nickel, copper, massive sulfides, platinum group elements, and also iron, titanium, vanadium. This one is unique in that it shows both indications of similarities to deposits from the Archean age, but also shows strong similarities to those of the Proterozoic age. It's nearly unique for its type. And finally, I'll just talk a little bit about the Tiris iron ore province in the southern part of the country. People may be familiar with the iron ore mining in Mauritania, just over the border in Zourat. Now the Zourat iron ore mines sit in the Tiris iron ore province, and Mauritania produces about 13 million tons a year of iron ore that it exports down this railway line. And you can see that the work that we've done has demonstrated the extension of this province over the border into Western Sahara, where we've mapped and sampled over 60 hills or gelbs of iron ore, with results up to 69% iron in situ. So by our estimations, there is something like over 4 billion tons of iron ore potential within this region, within Western Sahara. And these deposits are within 50 to 100 kilometers of the existing railhead in Mauritania. Now this one wasn't too hard to find. We don't claim to be that good. It's these things are sticking out of the ground like this. This hill is about 1.5 kilometers long and 180 meters high, and this one alone probably represents about 180 to 200 million tons of iron ore potential. So that's the end of my presentation. I just want to reiterate and summarise that we're very much enjoying working with the government of Western Sahara, and they've been supporting us in all we do in the area, and it's been a very enjoyable journey over the last 12 years.